Have you ever wondered why some people start forgetting names, appointments, and even the most meaningful moments of their lives, while others reach their 80s with their minds sharp as a razor, recalling childhood memories as if they happened yesterday? What no one tells you, and what the latest science is starting to reveal, is that this shocking difference doesn't happen by chance, and it has little to do with just getting older. The truth is, there are foods you put on your plate every single day without a second thought that slowly erode your memory, speed up cognitive decline, and quietly put your brain at risk. And the worst part? These foods are hiding in the daily routine of most people over 70. They became part of our culture over the past few decades. In your breakfast, your lunch, and especially that innocent little afternoon snack. The one that feels harmless, but might be dragging you closer to dementia with every bite. Before you think this is just another generic list, here's what sets this video apart. Every single food you're about to discover was carefully studied by doctors and researchers. There are real scientific studies proving their damaging effects on the brain, especially after 70, when your body can no longer handle certain hidden dangers. Throughout this video, you'll uncover the shocking truth behind the rise of Alzheimer's, memory loss, and mental fog in older adults. You'll understand how seemingly small daily mistakes are silently stealing your mental clarity. And most importantly, what you can do to protect your mind, starting today. By the end, you'll know exactly which food should disappear from your table if your goal is to age with a sharp mind, independence, and full control over your own story. Now tell me, are you ready to discover these hidden brain threats and protect your mind? Comment number 1 below if you're ready to take this journey with me. One of the most dangerous daily habits silently destroying the aging brain is the constant consumption of refined sugars and sweetened drinks. What once felt like a harmless pleasure, that spoonful of sugar in your coffee, the afternoon cookie, or the glass of orange soda, is now recognized by science as a direct assault on your memory and cognitive health. Every time you flood your body with sugar, your blood glucose spikes. In a young, resilient brain, the damage might go unnoticed. But after 70, those repeated spikes act like acid, corroding the most delicate neural connections, the ones responsible for memory, focus, and learning. Over time, this creates chronic inflammation in the brain, a condition linked to an alarming rise in Alzheimer's cases. The brain, as powerful as it is, depends entirely on a steady, balanced fuel supply. Refined sugars are the exact opposite. They overstimulate the brain's reward system, triggering temporary highs, followed by deep crashes that leave you mentally foggy and emotionally drained. For older adults, these crashes become more frequent, making it harder and harder to recover. What's left is a mind that feels heavy, slow, and unfamiliar. Richard Turner knew this all too well. After his father's struggle with dementia, he made a quiet but powerful decision. He cut sugar wherever he could. His coffee is black. His snacks are fruits or nuts. At social gatherings, he politely refuses the sugary desserts he once loved. And the result is visible. Richard stays sharp, holds long conversations, and never loses track of what he's saying. His memory, his sense of humor, even his problem-solving, they're all intact. Meanwhile, George Miller clings to his old habits. Every afternoon, like clockwork, he pours himself a glass of sweet tea. Sometimes it's soda. Other times, it's a piece of cake or a chocolate bar. A little treat, he calls it. But those little treats added up. Over the years, they fed a silent fire of inflammation in his brain. Today, George forgets what he was saying mid-sentence. He searches for words that used to come easily. His family notices, but George brushes it off, unaware that what he eats and drinks every single day is accelerating his decline. The science is crystal clear. A study published in the journal Neurology found that people with high blood sugar levels, even those without diabetes, suffered greater shrinkage in the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory. The more sugar, the smaller the brain. If you're reading this and feeling surprised, you're not alone. Sugar is everywhere, hidden even in foods labeled healthy. But it's never too late to take back control. Start small. Swap the sweet drinks for water or herbal tea. Choose whole fruits instead of desserts. Every change you make pulls you further away from the fog and closer to the clarity you deserve. Few things feel as familiar and comforting as a simple sandwich. Maybe a slice of ham, a bit of bacon, or some smoked turkey layered between two slices of bread. For decades, processed meats have been a staple in the diet of millions, especially among those who grew up in the post-war era, when canned and preserved foods symbolized progress and convenience. But what science now reveals is that this convenience comes at a devastating cost, especially after the age of 70. Hidden inside every bite of bacon, every slice of salami, every piece of sausage, are compounds known as nitrates and nitrites. These chemicals, used to preserve color and extend shelf life, don't simply pass through your system. They accumulate, they react, and in the brain, they become silent killers. When nitrates break down, they form nitrosamines, compounds proven to damage blood vessels, reduce oxygen flow to the brain, and trigger the very inflammation that leads to cognitive decline. Over time, this process strangles your neurons, cutting off communication between brain cells, eroding memory, and accelerating diseases like Alzheimer's. Richard Turner never forgot the day his doctor looked him in the eye and said, "If you want your brain to last, processed meats need to go." It wasn't easy. Richard had always loved his weekend bacon and his occasional hot dog, but he made the shift. Today, his plate is filled with lean, fresh proteins, grilled chicken, wild-caught fish, and eggs. When he craves flavor, he uses herbs, spices, even avocado, never cured meats. And as a result, Richard's mind stays clear. He remembers every birthday, every family story, every detail of his financial plans. Meanwhile, George Miller barely hears the warnings. For him, processed meats are a part of life. Breakfast starts with a couple of sausages. Lunch, a quick ham and cheese sandwich. And dinner, more often than not, includes a few slices of salami or canned meats. "I've eaten this way my whole life, and I'm fine," George says, but the cracks are already showing. He struggles to remember his grandchildren's names. Dates blur. Tasks that were once simple now feel impossible. Recent studies published in Molecular Psychiatry confirm the link. Regular consumption of processed meats increases the risk of dementia by up to 44%. It's not just about the fat or salt. It's the chemical reaction taking place in your brain. A slow, relentless poisoning disguised as a meal. There's no gentle way to say this. If processed meats are still part of your daily routine, it's time to reconsider. Every sandwich, every slice adds up. But the good news is, the moment you stop, your brain begins to heal. Fresh proteins, nuts, legumes, these are the building blocks of a sharper mind. There's something comforting about the smell of freshly baked white bread. Toasted, buttered, soft. It's a childhood memory, a staple at every table. But what was once a symbol of nourishment has become, in today's world, one of the most dangerous foods for anyone over 70 who wants to protect their mind. Refined carbohydrates, white bread, pasta, pastries, break down into sugar almost instantly the moment they touch your tongue. And just like sugar, they flood your bloodstream with glucose, forcing your body to produce insulin to cope with the surge. But unlike your younger years, your aging brain can no longer handle these repeated attacks. Over time, this constant demand leads to insulin resistance, not just in your body, but within your brain itself. What few people realize is that insulin doesn't just regulate blood sugar. It's also critical for brain function. Insulin helps neurons absorb glucose for energy, supports memory, and keeps the communication lines between brain cells open. But when your brain becomes resistant to insulin, it starts to starve, even if your blood is full of sugar. This condition, often called type 3 diabetes by researchers, has now been directly linked to Alzheimer's disease. A study in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that older adults with high consumption of refined carbohydrates showed significantly more cognitive decline, faster memory loss, poor decision-making, and reduced problem-solving skills. Richard Turner heard this warning years ago and made the hard choice most people can't. He stopped seeing bread and pasta as harmless side dishes. Today, his meals are rich in fiber, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats. Quinoa replaced white rice. Leafy greens took the place of dinner rolls. And the payoff? Richard's mind is as quick as ever. He solves crossword puzzles, manages his investments, and never, not once, forgets where he put his keys. George Miller, on the other hand, clings to his comfort foods. Morning toast with jam, pasta for dinner, cookies before bed. It feels harmless, like small daily pleasures he earned after a lifetime of work. But the cost is heavy. George forgets appointments. He walks into rooms and can't remember why. Decisions that once took seconds now leave him staring at the wall, confused. The slow, creeping fog George lives with isn't random. It's fueled, day after day, by every bite of that white bread, every plate of pasta. His brain is starving, not from lack of food, but from the wrong kind of fuel. If you've relied on these foods your whole life, the idea of changing may feel impossible. But it's not. Start by replacing one serving of white bread with whole grains. Choose brown rice, quinoa, or lentils. Every shift, no matter how small, helps reopen those vital pathways in your brain. If this hit close to home, comment number 4 below, because what's coming next is a hidden danger few people talk about, yet it's killing brain cells every single day. For years, trans fats were everywhere, in margarine, cookies, crackers, and countless packaged snacks lining supermarket shelves. Advertised as a modern, convenient alternative to butter and lard, these hydrogenated oils were welcomed into homes, restaurants, and dinner tables across America. What no one realized, until it was almost too late, was that this modern miracle came with a deadly price. Trans fats don't just clog arteries. They do something far worse. They harden the very blood vessels your brain depends on. They turn once flexible pathways into brittle, narrowed channels that struggle to deliver oxygen and nutrients where they're needed most. And the brain, more than any other organ, pays the highest price. Inside your skull, your brain cells fight for survival, starved of oxygen, suffocated by the slow, relentless assault of hardened arteries. The result? Memory loss, confusion, difficulty focusing, the earliest signs of cognitive decline that too many people mistake for normal aging. Richard Turner remembers hearing about trans fats years ago. It was a quiet article tucked away in a health magazine, but it changed his life. He went through his kitchen, reading every label. Out went the margarine, the store-bought cookies, the microwave popcorn. In their place, he brought back real foods, olive oil, avocados, nuts. Today, Richard's brain is well-fed, his blood flows freely, and his mind remains sharp. His decisions are quick, his conversations thoughtful. He's present, truly present, in every moment. George Miller, as always, stayed loyal to the familiar. margarine on his morning toast, packaged cookies with his coffee, store-bought pies during family gatherings. They've always been there, he says. How bad could it really be? But every bite added up. Today, George finds himself struggling to follow conversations. He loses track of the plot halfway through a TV show. His once quick wit now comes with long, painful pauses. And the science? It's undeniable. A long-term study published in Neurology found that people with high trans fat levels in their blood had worse memory, poorer cognition, and a higher risk of dementia than those with lower levels. The damage wasn't theoretical. It was visible, measurable, and devastating. The worst part? Trans fats often hide under names like partially hydrogenated oils. You may not see the words trans fat on the label, but the poison is still there, buried in fine print, waiting for its chance to harden your arteries and steal your mind. But there's hope. Every day you choose real, whole foods over processed snacks. You give your brain a fighting chance. Extra virgin olive oil, a handful of walnuts, fresh vegetables sautéed in avocado oil. These aren't just foods, they're lifelines. For decades, the food industry sold us a seductive lie that artificial sweeteners were the safer, smarter alternative to sugar. The modern solution for those who wanted to stay healthy without giving up sweetness. Sugar-free, diet, 0 calories. These labels became symbols of health-conscious choices. But behind every pink, blue, or yellow packet, behind every diet soda or sugar-free yogurt, hides a chemical cocktail designed not to nourish your brain, but to confuse and slowly weaken it. Artificial sweeteners, aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, don't just trick your taste buds. They also trick your brain. These chemicals send powerful signals to your body, triggering insulin responses without delivering any real fuel. Over time, this repeated deception disrupts the delicate balance of your gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria that directly communicates with your brain. Scientists now understand that your gut and brain are deeply connected. Damage your gut, and you damage your mind. Artificial sweeteners inflame the gut, kill beneficial bacteria, and open the door to mood disorders, anxiety, depression, and, most dangerously, memory loss. A recent study published in Stroke, the Journal of the American Heart Association, found that people who consume diet drinks daily were almost 3 times more likely to suffer from stroke and dementia compared to those who didn't. Richard Turner saw the trend early. When everyone else was switching to light yogurts and diet sodas, Richard took a different path. He gave up the need for constant sweetness. Black coffee, unsweetened tea, plain yogurt with real berries. He retrained his taste buds and protected his brain in the process. Today, Richard is as steady emotionally as he is mentally. He doesn't suffer from mood swings or brain fog. He remembers not just faces, but the stories that come with them. George Miller, however, embraced the diet revolution. He swapped sugar for sweeteners in his morning coffee, filled his fridge with 0 sodas, reached for low-fat, artificially sweetened yogurts, believing he was making healthier choices. But the result was the opposite of what he hoped. George became forgetful, anxious, irritable, small frustrations, losing his keys, forgetting why he walked into a room, turned into daily battles. His family thought it was just aging, but inside George's body, years of chemical-laden diet foods were dismantling the gut-brain connection that kept him sharp. Now, the man who once told the best stories at family dinners sometimes forgets why they gathered at all. The cruel irony is that artificial sweeteners were supposed to protect people like George. Instead, they stole from him, slowly, invisibly. If you've relied on diet drinks or artificial sweeteners, know this: it's not too late. Start today. Cut them out. Let your body reconnect with real tastes, bitter, sweet, sour, all in their natural form. Your brain will thank you in ways you can't imagine. There's a belief many carry into their later years, that a drink or two a day is harmless, even healthy. After all, alcohol is woven into the fabric of social life. A glass of wine at dinner, a whiskey before bed, a beer with friends. It feels like a small reward at the end of a long day, a comfort earned after decades of hard work. But what science now makes painfully clear is that even moderate alcohol consumption, especially after 70, takes a silent but devastating toll on the brain. The older you get, the less equipped your body and your mind becomes to process alcohol. What once was filtered out effortlessly now lingers, penetrating the blood-brain barrier and attacking the very structures that hold your memories, your personality, your ability to reason. Repeated exposure shrinks the brain's gray matter, the region responsible for memory, emotions, and decision-making. Over time, neurons die, connections fray, and the brain quite literally begins to wither. Richard Turner made his decision early. After seeing colleagues in retirement spiral into cognitive decline, fueled in part by their nightly drinks, he stopped. No more wine at dinner, no more celebratory whiskey. Instead, Richard found other rituals: herbal teas, evening walks, long conversations with his wife. And today, his mind is a fortress. He remembers investments, names, stories from decades ago. Alcohol never got the chance to rob him of that. George Miller, on the other hand, believed the old saying that a little alcohol every day keeps the heart healthy. A beer with lunch, a glass of bourbon while watching the evening news. "It helps me relax," he'd say. But while George relaxed, his brain paid the price. Over the years, his short-term memory began to falter. He repeated stories without realizing, faces blurred. He struggled to follow conversations he once dominated. And the research? It's damning. A study published in the BMJ followed middle-aged adults into their later years and found that even moderate drinkers showed significant brain shrinkage, particularly in the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. The more frequent the drinking, the greater the loss. The hardest truth is that alcohol doesn't warn you. There's no sudden pain, no visible damage, just a slow, steady erosion of the very thing that makes you who you are. By the time most realize, it's already too late. But you have a choice. You can be like Richard, breaking free from the silent grip of alcohol and giving your brain the space it needs to stay strong. Replace the evening drink with water, tea, or conversation. Choose presence over escape. If you've come this far, you already sense the truth most people never face until it's too late. The mind does not simply fade because of age. Memory loss, confusion, and cognitive decline. They are not the inevitable price of growing old. They are the result of choices made, one meal at a time, one habit repeated over decades. We saw it through Richard Turner, a man who, by all accounts, should be slowing down. But Richard made a choice early on. He chose to protect his mind, the way others protect their savings or their homes. He gave up the processed meats, the sugary drinks, the refined carbs. He rejected the artificial sweeteners and the empty promises of diet products. He walked away from the slow poison of alcohol, not because it was easy, but because he understood that the greatest wealth in old age is not money. It's clarity. It's the ability to remember the names of those you love, to tell your story without stumbling, to wake up every morning knowing exactly who you are. And then there's George Miller, the man who did what most people do. He trusted the familiar. He chose comfort over caution, routine over reflection. Every sandwich stuffed with processed meats, every glass of sweet tea or zero soda, every evening drink meant to relax him. All of it slowly building the fog that now surrounds him. George did not forget on purpose. He simply lived the way he always had, never realizing that the foods he trusted were slowly dismantling his mind. Science has given us the answers, the studies, the proof, the hard data. But in the end, it's not science that will change your future. It's choice. Your choice. Right now, you stand where Richard and George once stood, at the quiet crossroads few people notice. One path leads to independence, sharpness, memories that stretch back a lifetime. The other, to forgetfulness, confusion, and a slow disappearance from your own life. The foods you choose from this day forward will either build your mind or break it. Every bite matters. Every sip matters. The question is, what matters most to you? If you're ready to choose the path of clarity, if you're ready to protect the stories that make you who you are, then leave a comment, number 8, below. Share this video with someone you love. Because this isn't just about your mind. It's about every memory you still have the power to keep. And if this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Because your journey to a sharper, stronger mind is just beginning, and I'll be here to walk it with you.